Hi, everyone, could you just mute yourselves if you're not muted already, please, and we can start. Welcome, everyone. My name is Suzanne Pacifico, and I am the West Hill PTSO co-president, along with Christine Meek this year. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience. We are excited to present FAFSA Night in partnership with West Hill counselors. We'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the PTSO. We would love volunteers. We need more people on board. We are looking for, if you are looking for ways to find out what's going on in the school, we have a Facebook page, which is West Hill, capital, all caps, PTSO. And we also have an e-blast that goes out weekly. It's Vikings e-blast, WPTSO@gmail.com. If you'd like to join that, I will post it in the chat so you don't have to worry about if you missed it. Basically, we need help with volunteering for PTSO, whether it's going to the restaurant nights, to donating your time, or sometimes we hold staff holiday breakfast when we're allowed back in. We also are trying to do after prom this year. Again, all this stuff is dependent on COVID. So we'll have to see if we're allowed to do it, but we will hopefully, fingers crossed, be doing more activities, and we could use your support and help. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. But I know you guys want to hear from everyone else. I'm sorry. So I'll pass it over to Mr. Rinaldi. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. And if everybody, oh, perfect. Thank you for muting. And Anu Malas, appreciate that. Okay, so welcome everybody. And I'd like to start by thanking our wonderful WPTSO, Suzanne and Christine for sure, and our counseling department for putting this evening together. FAFSA is a pretty big deal. I was actually in the car on the way over here to join the meeting, or at least the beginning of the meeting, I was with my son. So he gets in the car and I'm like, shh, I might be on any minute. So what's the meeting about? And I told him, I said, FAFSA. What's FAFSA? I said, oh, you'll have to learn soon enough. So this is a wonderful opportunity for all of you to learn all about FAFSA tonight and how it is really, really important as you're getting ready to have your children begin to search for colleges and get into that space. So I'm glad you're here for this opportunity. I'd like to just kind of also acknowledge some things that have been going on at West Hill that aren't very good, and then end with what I feel is the overall energy of good things that are happening there. So of course, if you are paying attention at all, you know a couple of things. You know that last week we had some really unfortunate and illegal things happen here when someone called in a bomb scare. That happened twice. It happened last Wednesday after school and then last Thursday. That's an unsettling thing for sure. It's scary. The students and the teachers handled it very, very well. We exited the building without incident. We were able to wait for the police to come and do their thing, and we were able to come back into the school. So I don't want to go too long because we have a big agenda tonight, but we had a parent meeting where we really broke all of that down. We had a lot of parents join us on Saturday morning last week. If you did not participate in that meeting and you'd like to see it in its entirety, I haven't checked personally, but I'm pretty sure we have it up on our website. Thank you, Suzanne. Very good. So you can definitely see and hear that meeting. And there you have it. So the other thing that's been going on, and you saw an article in the paper, and if you make it a habit of tuning into board meetings, you may have heard and seen myself and Mr. Forker, the principal of Stanford High School. We were asked to participate in a board meeting last night to talk about really the number of disruptions that we've had with student behavior, fights specifically among students. And that very serious topic was discussed at last night's meeting. And that I do know for sure is also up on the Stanford Public Schools website. You can check out that video as well. Rest assured that I'm almost working around the clock to try to make sure that we have this return to just what's basically normal school is what you all deserve and what we have come to expect as a experience for our students. And so where I'll kind of go and end my piece for this evening is that despite some of the challenges that we faced, it feels so good to be back in school. I'd say 98% the way we're used to, except for masks needing to be worn, of course, our lunch spaces being different because of the COVID restrictions. It just feels good to be back, and activities are back in full swing. As you know, sports are back in full swing, and it feels really super awesome. And I know that the kids are happy to be back to what they know is what normal high school should be. So we have a bunch of events coming up. I have a matcha with Mike that I need to get settled with Suzanne and Christine soon. So I'm sorry for the delay in that. But just happy to be back in school, and it's already the middle of October, which is crazy. So I'm actually going to get back in my car. I'm going to try to get back on, but I'm not going to be able to stay on for very long this evening. But you are in excellent hands, and please learn all you can possibly learn about FAFSA, because it's very important. Anything I'm missing, Suzanne, or you think that's good?
I think that's great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, I'd like to pass it over now to Ms. Shelly. She is from Conntact Inc., and she is here to answer all your questions about financial aid for college.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shayla. I will be doing a PowerPoint presentation, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm not going to try to be so long. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, you can put it in the chat, and I'll save some time after the presentation. Okay, so my name is Shelly. I work for an organization called Conntact. We're a nonprofit organization, and we assist students with the financial aid process. We give fee waivers to those who are eligible. We help with the FAFSA, help with scholarships, career planning, financial literacy, things like that, just to help the students to roll into a college. If you need any more information, you can go to our website, contactinc.org. Our organization is in partnership with the community colleges in Connecticut. So my office is at Norwalk Community College. However, I can help a student go to any college, in-state or out-of-state. It's just that my office is at the community college. A lot of my students are at Norwalk Community College, and these are all the different locations we are. So we have counselors all over Connecticut, assisting students. And we help high school seniors and adults. So if any of you parents want to go back to school, feel free to reach out to me as well. So what is financial aid? Financial aid is money you can receive to fund your education. Just you guys are in my way. Trying to see how, sorry. Okay, so financial aid is money you can receive to help fund your education. And there are four types of financial aid. So a lot of times, a lot of people think when you say financial aid, it's just loans, or it's just grants, or it's just scholarships. It's actually all of these combined. So it's grants, loans, work study, and scholarships. Okay, so I'm gonna go through each one of them. So when you hear financial aid, it's a mixture of all of this. It's not just one. So grants. Grants is need-based money you do not have to pay back. Grants is like free money. Okay, so everyone wants grants, but everyone's not eligible for grants. It does go based off of income. And there's three types of grants. There's federal grants from the federal government. The main or the most popular one is the Pell Grant. And there are state grants as well as institutional grants. State grants is, from the state that you live in and go to school in. And then institutional grants is from the institution, the college that you'll be going to. With state and institutional grants, this is on a first come, first basis. So it's important to fill out the financial aid as early as possible so the students can be, in that line for those grants. They do run out. They don't have as much money as the federal government. So that's why it's important to do your FAFSA early, which we'll talk about a little later. So this is the first type of financial aid. The next type of financial aid is loans. So loans, money you borrow and you must pay back plus interest, okay? So it's not like grants where grants, free money, don't worry about it, don't pay it back. But obviously loans, it is a loan, you have to pay it back. And with the federal government student loans, they have a low interest and you don't pay back until 6 months after the student graduates, okay? So it's not as soon as you take out the loan, you have to pay it back. You don't have to start paying it back, or the student doesn't have to start paying it back until 6 months after they graduate. And so with the federal loans, there's subsidized loans, which is while you're in school, while the student's in school, the government pays for the interest, so it doesn't accrue. And so this is need-based, so you have to, you have to have financial need for it. For this loan, it is still a loan, but you have to have financial need for it. And then you have unsubsidized loans. Unsubsidized loans is while you're in college, the interest grow, okay? So it does grow throughout, the lifetime of the loan. So subsidized, while the student's in college, the government pays the interest. Unsubsidized, the student is responsible for the interest. With these loans as well, 6 months after you graduate, you have to start paying it back. And then there's also the Parent Plus loan. This is the loan for the remainder of a balance. So for example, if the student needed $20,000 and the government gave the student $15,000 and then you have a $5,000 balance, that's when a Parent Plus loan will come in. With the Parent Plus loan, the parent will have to take out the loan and they can't be denied. So it will go based off your credit. Whereas student loans, they do not go off credit or anything like that, okay? With the Parent Plus loan, if you have to take that out, the interest rate is still low and you don't have to pay it back until 6 months after you graduate. When the student is taking out a federal student loan, the loan will be in the student name. The only time the loan is not in the student name is if you're doing a Parent Plus loan or a private loan. A private loan can be maybe from a bank or a credit union or something like that. You want to really, if you have to take out a private loan, you really want to research it because their interest rates can be higher. They can sell your loan to another loan provider. They can say, you know what, you have to start paying your loan back right away. So when you're doing a private loan, it's important to do research to make sure you have the right loan for you. So another form of financial aid is scholarships. So scholarships is money that you give them a student based on merit, financial need, or criteria. It's kind of like grants where you don't have to pay it back. However, it's different criteria. You may have to the student may have to write an essay, or they may have to get a letter of recommendation. And it's usually like a competition where you have to be chosen for it. There is a lot of money out there for scholarships. It's just a lot of times students don't want to put the work in. So what I tell them, set aside some time each week, start looking for the the scholarships, look at the deadlines, look at the requirements that you need and, put it in the schedule because it can be overwhelming because you need an essay for this one and this for, every scholarship may need something different and you're not guaranteed the money. So a lot of times they don't want to, put in the effort. But there's so much money that's unused because, students don't want to put in the effort. So it's important to, go out there and look for those scholarships. collegegreenlight.com is a good website. They create a profile, they ask you questions and they tailor the scholarships, to the students. So they're not just looking at a whole bunch of scholarships. Going to their guidance counselor, seeing what scholarships they have. Some organizations, so parents, some jobs that you work at, your company may offer scholarships for your students. So, it's a whole bunch of scholarships out there You just have to look for them. Again, the website was collegegreenlight.com, and I can put it in the chat later. Another form, or the last form of financial aid, is federal work study. And this is federal money given to colleges to employ students. So it's basically like working on campus. A lot of times it could be like an assistant to a professor, or working in a financial aid office as like the desk worker and things like that. You have to be receiving, it has to be need-based for federal work study. So it's a question on the FAFSA, and it said, are you interested in work study? And you'll just put yes on there. So those are 4 types of financial aid. So when you trying to determine, how much financial aid you need and how much the tuition costs, is something called cost of attendance. This is tuition and fees, room and board, books, and things like that. Anything pertaining to how much the school costs, this is the cost of attendance. And the way we get your financial need is you take the cost of attendance. So like I said, tuition, room, books, board, all that, the total, and then you subtract the expected family contribution, the EFC. So anytime you see EFC, is expected family contribution, what you can contribute to your child education. It could be as low as, you may not be able to contribute anything. So you may be able to contribute $10,000. So when you do that, you do the cost of attendance, subtract the EFC, and you get the financial need. So this is how much financial aid the student will need for paying for their college. And so to figure out the EFC, you need something called the FAFSA. The FAFSA is it's an acronym, so it's free application for federal student aid. So when you hear FAFSA, this is what it is. It's the first form and obtain, or the only form, one of the only forms to obtain and most aid. It collects families' personal and financial information used to calculate the student's EFC, which is the expected family contribution. With the FAFSA, you have to do it every year, okay? October 1st, this new application, I'm not sure if some of you have started it, but that first day, it was so crazy, it kept shutting down because the whole country was on trying to do their FAFSA, so it was running really slow. I couldn't even do some students FAFSA because everyone was up there, but you do have to do, it's still early, it's only been out 14 days, so don't worry about that if you're too late, but you do have to do the FAFSA every year that the student is in college, okay? On the FAFSA, you can enter up to 10 colleges. So you wanna let the student, even if they didn't apply to the college yet, or not sure if they wanna go, just have them put it on the FAFSA, and whichever college the student decides to go to, that school will release the funds. So if they're not sure, just make sure they put it on their FAFSA. If they have more than 10 colleges, so when they're putting the 10 colleges on the FAFSA, you want to put the most important ones first. And then down the line, students, their list change all the time. So you can't go back in the FAFSA and remove, but you will have to remove one and replace it, which they can do down the line. And the FAFSA is an online application. It's fafsa.ed.gov. It is a government website, so you make sure you're on .gov. There are websites, say .com, .org. Those are like scam websites. You should never be charged to do the FAFSA. They should never ask you for a credit card or debit card number because it's in the name. It's a free application for federal student aid. So you want to make sure it's .gov. So this is what the FAFSA looks like. They just renewed it, so I'm not sure if some of you, the parents have, students from last year, but they just redid the whole FAFSA application. So if it looks a little different to you, that's why. But this is the new FAFSA application. This is a website. So what you'll do is, I'm the student, you can do the parent part. I will suggest that you just sign in with the student's information. It'll be a lot easier, smoother for you. So before you do the FAFSA, you want to do the Fsa Id. The Fsa Id is a username and password for your FAFSA, and this is for the student. The student and only one parent needs to create a Fsa Id. Okay, so you don't have, if you're married, you don't have to do you and your husband, or you and your wife, or you or whoever. It's just one parent. Okay, takes your name, social security number, date of birth. You select 4 security questions, and the website is fsaid.ed.gov. Without this, you can't submit the FAFSA. And for the parent, you won't be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, which I will talk about. You won't be able to use that if you didn't create an FSA ID. Okay, and it's the same website, FSA ID. So with the FSA ID is not a parent section. It's just the same thing. You go to the FSA ID. If the student's creating it, they put their information. If the parents creating it, they put their information. Okay, so it's fsaid.ed.gov. And so this is what it looks like now. It looks a little different. Like I said, you did your FAFSA maybe last year or a year before. This is the new website. So if the student has and when you're doing the, when you're logging into FAFSA, you log in with the student FSA ID. So for the student, it's a username and password. So you will put the student information here and then you'll log in. Now, if you're creating a FAFSA ID, you will go to create and then they'll ask you for the information. Okay, so after you go here, then you'll be into the FAFSA application and they'll ask you information. When you're doing the FAFSA, it's very important that you avoid errors, making sure you put the right social security number in. That's very important. The right date of birth in. Also, if the student or parent have 2 last names, you want to put both last names on the FAFSA. You want to put all the information correctly. You want to read everything carefully. When you're doing the FAFSA, if it says how much was it's for the student. If the information is for the parent, it will say how much was your parent income, or what about it will say your parent. So it's important to read that and know the difference. Because I know a lot of parents, they do their, you do your students' FAFSA on your own, but when they say it's going to be for the student, and if it's for the parent, it's going to say for the parent. Also, I know most, students right now are dependent students, but there are cases where, there may be an independent student. If you have a student that's in guardianship of someone other than a parent, they are an independent student and they don't need their parents' information. If both parents are deceased, they don't need their parents' information. If they ever been in DCF or, orphan awarded court or emancipated minor, if they're married, or if they're in a special circumstance where, they may be living with something else and they have like, maybe a restraining order against their parents and things like that, the financial aid administrator makes the decision. So what do you need for your FAFSA? The FAFSA, the most important thing is the parent's income. If you don't have any income, that's fine. But the most important thing is the parent's income. And for the 22-23 FAFSA that just became available, you need your 2020 tax return and W-2. It's important to also have your W-2, especially if you're married, because a lot of times on the 1040, everything is combined. The 2 parents' information is combined. And then they may ask for it separately as well. So on a W-2, it separates the income. So it's important to have the 1040 and the W-2. It's important to have, the student's social security number, as well as the parent's social security number, email address. If the student has a driver's license, put that up there. If the student is a permanent resident, you put that information up there. Other information, if you receive or pay child support, you need that information. Veterans non-educational benefits, death pensions, work compensation, current business and investment records, check-ins and savings accounts. So you need to have a record of how much is in each account if you have those. Some advice and tips for the FAFSA. If you have a son, he has to register with selected services. All males between the ages of 18 through 26 have to register. If you put that they don't want to register, they will not receive financial aid. The selected services is basically putting the student name into a draft if we ever had to, go to war and needed a draft. it's not likely to happen, but you still have to register for that. And that is a question that's on the FAFSA. So when it asks, is your student registered for selected services? If he's not, if he's too young yet, you just say no, and then you can register him right then and there. You can just say, register me. It's important to use the IRS data retrieval tool. This is a tool that transfers the parents or even student, if they have income, information from the IRS to the FAFSA. So everything is transferred. You don't have to manually put anything in. And this lessens the chances of doing something wrong. It's accurate, and it lessens the chances of the student getting verified at the end of the FAFSA. If, for example, step parents information. So if the primary parent is remarried, you have to put the parent plus step parent information in, even if the non-custodial parent is in the student life. If a parent does not have a social security number, that is perfectly fine. What you'll do is put zeros in place of the social security number, and you have to do a signature page. So the parents who don't have a social security number, they cannot make a Fsa Id. They have to manually sign. So once you do the FAFSA, ask you certain questions, and they'll say print a parent signature page. You print it out, sign it, and it's the address that's on the paper, and they have to mail it in if the parent does not have a social security number. For a parent, who may not have any income or didn't have to file taxes, that is fine. When the question comes, if you file taxes, you'll say no. And then if you had any income, you'll put in that. If you didn't have any income, you put 0. Regardless of income, you want to apply anyway. Some people I know, they made like that. They made too much money, and then they were eligible for some grants. And like I said, with the FAFSA is for all financial aid. And it's important, like I said, to do the FAFSA early, because you can be eligible for the state and institutional grants, and it'll be out the way. And it's important to follow up with the financial aid department at the college. Once you do your FAFSA, this is what the confirmation page look like. It has the school names, and it tells you what to do next. After you submit your FAFSA, a few days, something that's called the SAR, is Student Aid Report. It generates, and it's basically all the questions and all the answers to your FAFSA, so you have the opportunity to look at everything. If like your name or social security number or date of birth is incorrect, they say if you made a mistake, they'll let you know on the SAR. And without completing it or without correcting the mistakes, your financial aid is not going to be complete. And this is an example of a student aid report. It's just, like I said, all the questions and answers to the FAFSA. What do you do after you submit your FAFSA? You want to make sure your student applied to the college. So for example, right now, say if you did your FAFSA today, you want to make sure the student applies to all the colleges that they have on their FAFSA. You want to make sure you submit all the documents the college requires. And then I would say in about 2 weeks after you do the FAFSA, you check the status of the financial aid with each college, because you may get verified, which means that the school wants you to provide more information. You may get verified from one school and not the other. And also remember, the financial aid department, the college makes the decision of how much you get. So you can, if you are not happy with how much the school gives the student, calling the FAFSA headquarters is not going to do anything. It's the financial aid department that makes the decision of how much financial aid the student would get. And like I said, that's based on the income of the parents. It's the income of the parents, of the family, and number of household. This is an example of a award letter. So after you do the FAFSA, you submitted all your documents in, and you got accepted, the student got accepted, they give you an award letter, and then on the award letter, it tells you all the financial aid you receive. They tell you the grants, scholarships, and loans work study. They have everything up there. So you'll know exactly how much the school will cost. So this is just an example of it. What I tell students all the time, what they should look at is their net price. So what the net price is to figure out how much the school costs after they get the grants and work study and scholarship, basically all the free money. So the first step they should do is find out how much the cost of attendance is, and then you subtract the grants and scholarships amount of your aid, and that way you can compare how much you'll have to borrow. So for example, this is just an example that I had made. So this student, they applied to 4 of these colleges. And then this is the tuition and fees on campus. So the room and board is also included in this. So when the students are looking, at schools, make sure if they're going to stay on campus, make sure that you add room and board to the amount. And you also want to take in consideration out of state. If they go out of state, certain colleges, they have out of state, their tuition is different amount. So looking at that is very important as well. And so if you look at these amounts, this is the tuition, and this is not accurate. This is just estimates. So let's say this is for the whole year with room and board, and say Southern gave the student $10,000 in grants, money you don't pay back. And they also got $1,000 in scholarships. Their net price, meaning their out-of-pocket price, will be this amount. So this is the amount that they have to borrow in loans. Okay, and so let's look at UConn. This student got 13,000, scholarships 2,000, and then you subtract that from the tuition fees, and the net price is 19. Okay, and so this, when they're trying to determine what colleges they can afford, you want to compare this. This student right here will have to borrow $46,000 a year. So times that times 4. So you really want to look at that when determining what college they want to choose. What can they afford? What can the family afford? The net price is important. Another form is the Css Profile. Some colleges require this, more of the private institutions, and this form is more in detail. Is so much more in detail. It has a lot more questions than the FAFSA. You do it collegeboard.com. It is a paid form. However, there are fee waivers out there. So it's I believe it's like $20, $25 plus $16 per school you send it to. So for example, a school maybe like Yale or just the schools that have more money to give, that's why they ask so many questions. And they may require both parents' information regardless of marital status. For example, on the FAFSA, if the parents are divorced, they're just going to take the primary parents or the custodial parents' information. However, with the Css Profile, the college may ask for both, if they're divorced, both information. There also may be different information required. Like I just had a student today, they wanted to know what kind of car the parent has and how much debt on the car. They'll ask something like how much, if you own your home, how much your mortgage is, how much the house is worth, what's the value of the house.
That was BELE, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, all colleges do not
Whatchamacallit is
all colleges do not require this. So do
really
not have your student fill this out if they do not have to. The college will let them know.
text.
This is
What?
such a
Open your
long
text.
form
I have that open on my phone.
Did you start it?
for
So start here.
someone is not mute. The CSS site will be down from October 19th to the 21st for maintenance. I just want to throw that out there just in case you guys were, I don't want you to go crazy, like, why is this not working? But it will
You're
be
a
down.
student. First one.
Yeah, and so that is the end of my presentation. I will take some questions.
Great.
If you
ID.
did want to make an appointment with me, maybe you have certain questions that
Underneath the
you want to
box.
ask up here,
Create a
or
FAFSA
if
ID.
you just had
Nice
one
to see
security
you.
question to
Hello.
help figure it out, you can take in my information here. I do have a scheduling link where you can just go here and schedule an appointment with me. And then we'll do, most of my appointments are via Zoom, but if you need to come in person, you can come to my office, you just let me know. So I'm gonna look at the questions now. Okay, let's see. Okay.
I'm
So
so sorry. I'm sorry.
one
So,
question.
sure. I had a question.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you mentioned that if we would like to make an appointment virtually with you, we have to go at NCC first.
No, you can either do it via Zoom, or if
Okay.
you prefer to, meet in person, you will have to go to NCC at my office. Yes.
All right, I understand. Thank you very much.
Here's the screen number.
So let's see, I'm gonna look in the chat. It says dislocated worker. If someone was laid off years ago and never went back to work, how do you answer this? So there is a question on the FAFSA. It says, are you a dislocated worker? And you'll say yes. So there's a question for that. Also regarding net worth, do you include personal property such as art collections and jewelry? Not on the FAFSA.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have a recommended reference source for research and scholarships? Like I said, you can go to collegegreenlight.com. You can go to studentaid.gov. They have scholarships there. FastWeb has great scholarships. You just want to look at and make sure it's a great site, look at the reviews, or just look it up on Google, make sure there's no scams and things like that, any scams. Yeah, so the scholarships, FastWeb is a good one, collegegreenlight.com. Oh, someone did it. How can I change the list of colleges in FAFSA? So the way, if you have to make any changes into your FAFSA after you submitted it, you'll log back in with the student information, and you're gonna see make FAFSA corrections. And then you'll click that, and then it'll bring you into the FAFSA, and then you click on school selection, and then you add or subtract the college. You don't want to keep going back into your FAFSA because it has to recalculate. So if you go into the FAFSA, try to have a list of schools. So don't go back and forth into the FAFSA. Try it. So if you're gonna go back, make sure you have like maybe a list of colleges you want to take out or add. You don't want to keep going back into your FAFSA. What grade should a FAFSA be submitted? 11, 12, 12. Do not do a FAFSA in the 11. You'll be wasting your time. Don't do a FAFSA until they're in their 12th. Well, until the October 1st. Okay, October 1st of that next year, which your student will be a senior, that's when you do the FAFSA. You can create the Fsa Id, but it's no point. I know, you want to get ahead of start, you'll be wasting your time to do it in the 11th grade. So seniors and then after. Usually the deadline is always February 15th for the FAFSA. And certain colleges may have different dates, so it's important to know the dates of the FAFSA as well. Why do you have to fill out the FAFSA every year if you didn't receive any aid for the current year and everything is pretty much the same? It's more, I guess, general. People circumstances may change. So one year you may have, the same job. The next year circumstances happen, you may not have. like with COVID, you know, a lot of people lost their jobs and things like that. And that's a point too. So if your income has changed significantly, like if you lost a job during COVID and things like that, you still have to put in the 2020 information on the FAFSA. Once you submit your FAFSA, then you can reach out to the financial aid office and say, hey, I'm not working, I'm not making this income anymore. And it's up to them, it's called professional judgment, whether they want to take in consideration your new income. Okay, but you have to do the FAFSA every year, even if the income stays the same. Okay, it could be even off maybe by $1, but you have to do the FAFSA every year to receive financial aid. If you're not receiving, if the student is not receiving, if they're not going to take out loans or they don't qualify for grants, you don't have to do the FAFSA. If you're going to pay out of pocket for your students' education, you don't have to do the FAFSA. My question, my son just turned 17 years old for the military draft question. Would it still pertains? So that question, you could just register him right then and there. So you wouldn't have to wait until he was 18. The FAFSA would register him right then and there. So you don't have to worry about it. So I would click register me. You don't have to wait to send anything in once they get the form or anything like that. So if I were you, I would just register him, because you can do it. The Fsa Id, is it, oh wait, where did it go? Is one for my son and one for the parent, or one for your student and one for the parent. Some of you may have a Fsa Id already if you had a student, you know, last year or the year before. So if you had from 2014 to maybe last year, if you had another student, you know, another child enrolled, you may have a Fsa Id. If you don't remember, that's perfectly fine. You just hit forgot password and you can just reset your password. So you don't make another one. Do parents fill the FAFSA for the students? If I were you, I think, you know, you should do it with your child, just so they can get familiar with it and know the, you know, the questions and things like that. But the student can do it alone with the parent's information, and the parent can do it alone with the student's information. So yeah. Do both the student and the parent need to have a Fsa Id, or just the student? The parent needs the Fsa Id, and one parent and the student. If I applied for a FAFSA years ago for myself and I'm going to use the same login since a parent now, I forgot them all. It was such a, yeah, if you forgot, like I said, you just hit I forgot password, and they'll just tell you to renew your password. Also, I just wanted to mention, because I just remember, if you as a parent went to college and say you have loans, or if your loans are in default or anything like that, that's not going to affect your student at all. This is just, they want your information to see what the student qualifies for. So if you are nervous about that, or even if you want to go back to college and you think it's going to harm your student, it's not. It actually will help you, the student, more. When's the latest that you can apply for FAFSA? You want to check the college deadline. So every college is different. Usually you want to do it by like February 15th. Before, if you can, I would do it right away, you know, to do it, get it out the way. You won't have to worry about it. You don't want to wait to the last minute to, you know, because it does take a process. So like I said, it takes about 2 weeks. And if the student get verified, like I said, which means they have to bring additional documents in, then that can prolong the amount of financial aid as well. So doing it as soon as possible is the best thing to do. We have to do the Fsa Id and then the FAFSA form. Yes, so the Fsa Id is like a login. So you have to log in to do the FAFSA. You can go around it, but you won't be able to submit it without the Fsa Id. So it's the best thing to do the Fsa Id, sign in, and then finish the application. And then just want to let you guys know that the Fsa Id is the same, it's no parent section for the Fsa Id. So If you log on to FSA ID, you're going to put in your information. You're not going to look for anything that says parent. It's just FSA ID. So which FSA ID do we use to fill out the FAFSA? You're going to log in with your student FSA ID. Once you get to the end, it's going to ask you to put in your FSA ID, the parent, to sign. So your FSA is a signature. It's an electronic signature. Do I have any more questions? Like I said, if you have any questions or if you think of something, you know, tomorrow or next week or next month, feel free to reach out to me. If you want help doing the FAFSA, feel free to reach out to me. All of our services are free. So just to let you know about that. Can I submit the FAFSA application even if I didn't submit my college application? Do I have to do the college application first? No, you can do your FAFSA application first. You want to do your FAFSA application first because it takes the longest amount of time to process. So it's best to do your FAFSA application first, but also start applying for your colleges as well. You guys are welcome. You don't have to list 10 colleges, no. 10 is the max. So if you only have one college, you only could put one. You only should put one college. If you have 5, you put 5. You don't have to put 10 colleges in. So I don't want you guys like, oh, I gotta go look and research. Oh, no, you don't have to put 10 colleges in. You can put however many you want. If you just have one, you have to put at least one though. You have to put at least one. So you submit, you create an FSA ID for the student and one parent. The parent has to have an FSA ID. It's your signature. It's an electronic signature. So for example, say you go to a doctor's office with your child. You know, if the child is under a certain age, you have to sign it. So act like it's just you signing the application. So that, and you're signing because your information is in the FAFSA. So it's an electronic signature. That's what it, but it's just called FSA ID. No problem. Do we have to apply to every college we write in the FAFSA? No, you don't have to apply to every college. You may change your mind at the last minute and say you don't want to go to that college anymore. No, but if you are not sure, you want to just put the the college up there. So if you decide today you have 10 colleges, and then when you go to apply to the colleges, you're like, I only want to do 5. That is perfectly fine. They'll just the college that gives you the funds is the college that you choose to go to. So if you put 10 colleges on your FAFSA, the FAFSA is going to go to those colleges and they're just going to sit there. It's not going to affect anything. If divorced, we only fill out one parent information. Yeah, so it's gonna ask you, are your parents married, divorced, separated, or whatever? You'll put divorce, you'll put your date, and then they'll say which parent information are you using, and then you choose your parent, the parents. So if it's the mothers, they'll say mothers, and then they'll say social. They'll ask for your social security number, date of birth, and things like that, and all that information is on is gonna be on the mother. Now. So on the FAFSA says, as of today, is your parents married, divorced, separated? And say you're divorced today, but last year you filed taxes last year as married. What you have to do is divide that information. You have to subtract the other parent information. So if you guys made $50,000 together, you have to subtract the other parent information from their income and put your income in there. Someone says, are there any other speakers tonight? I don't think so. Oh.
No, there's no other speakers tonight.
Yeah, so I don't see any more questions. So, like I said, if you guys have any other questions, let me know. I know this is a lot of information. I try to contain some. I try to add, you know, every year I try to take some out and add some. I know it's a lot of information, is everything, especially if it's new, if this is your first student going to college. I know it's a lot, but that's what I'm here for. If you have questions or you just, you know, want me to look over something or whatever the case may be, is that's what I'm here for.
Shella, thank you so much. I don't know if anybody has any other
There's one more.
questions. Oh, I think there, did you talk about,
So if you want to later add a school after your award has been determined, yes, you can. Because you won't get an award letter until the FAFSA is done. So if you get an award letter and you decide not to go to that college, you decided to go to another college, you just have to put it on the FAFSA. If a parent is a single parent, is there that option as well? What do you mean? If a parent is a single parent, is there that option as well?
maybe no dad, they're not divorced, maybe there's no dad in
Oh,
the
yeah,
picture,
so
or no mom in the picture.
So the questions are never married, remarried or married, separated or divorced. So it's not, there's no single parent, it's just unmarried. Yeah, so okay, so okay.
So if they're a single parent, they just check unmarried.
Yeah, if you it's never married.
Never
So
married,
it's
okay.
yeah, it's never married, so that means you've never been married. So basically they'll be the single parent. And then they'll be married or remarried. That's one line. Separated or divorced, that's another line. You guys are welcome. If the
Thanks.
student works part-time, some questions they may ask. Each question may generate another question. So some FAFSAs they may ask about the student information, whether they work, and some FAFSAs they may not. Okay, no problem. When the student's 11 can apply. I'm assuming you're saying in 11th grade, they don't apply. The 11th graders or juniors do not apply. They apply the next year. So if your student's in 11th grade, they will apply October 22, 2022. Okay. Well, thank you all for listening to all this information. Oh, if your net worth is 0, you put 0. No problem. Okay, I think that is it.
Great, Shayla, thank you so much. We all learned so much about this complicated form that we need to fill out to get aid for our kids.
Yeah, no problem at all.
And just so everyone knows, the meeting is being recorded and will be posted in a few days, but thank you again to Shayla.
No problem. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, have a good night.